For decades, the promise of cheaper production abroad drove American companies to outsource manufacturing. It was seen as a shrewd business decision, a path to lower consumer prices and higher profits. But the true cost of this shift, as one iconic American company discovered, extended far beyond balance sheets. We are investigating how the very fabric of industrial capacity can unravel, revealing that some things, once lost, cannot simply be bought back. This is the story of what a company, known for its quintessential American board game, learned when it tried to bring production back home. Hasbro, the company behind Monopoly, faced this reality head-on. As reported by sources like Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal, Hasbro attempted to source more components for its games within the United States. This wasn't just a nostalgic endeavor, it was a response to growing concerns about global supply chain vulnerabilities and a desire to support domestic production. Yet, what seemed like a straightforward business decision quickly unearthed a profound truth: the infrastructure to make many of these basic game pieces simply no longer existed in the US. Consider the humble dice. For generations, dice for Monopoly were manufactured in the United States. However, by the 1990s, the landscape had changed dramatically. The last major U.S. factory dedicated to mass-producing dice for games like Monopoly had closed its doors. When Hasbro sought a new domestic supplier, they discovered a startling reality: the specialized machinery, the tumblers, polishers, and custom painters required for high-volume, low-cost dice production, had all but disappeared from the American industrial base. They were effectively gone. Hasbro did manage to locate one remaining U.S. firm capable of making dice. However, this company specialized in custom, handcrafted dice for niche markets, not the millions required for mass-produced board games. The cost disparity was stark. While mass-produced dice from overseas suppliers cost approximately 1 cent per piece, the specialized domestic firm quoted a price of $1 per die. This 100-fold price difference made domestic sourcing for Monopoly's dice economically unfeasible, demonstrating the immense challenge of rebuilding lost manufacturing capacity. The story of Monopoly's iconic metal tokens, the thimble, the top hat, the race car, mirrored the dice dilemma. Until the mid-2000s, these tokens were produced in the United States by a small, family-owned metal stamping firm in Rhode Island. This company had been a cornerstone of Hasbro's supply chain for decades, embodying the dense network of specialized suppliers that once characterized American manufacturing. But as detailed in reports, this crucial link in the chain was about to break, further eroding the domestic manufacturing base. In 2005, Hasbro's Rhode Island token supplier closed its doors permanently. The reasons were multifaceted, reflecting the pressures that decimated much of American light manufacturing. High labor costs in the U.S. made it difficult to compete with foreign producers. Stringent environmental regulations, particularly concerning the plating processes required for metal tokens, added significant compliance expenses. Moreover, the relentless competition from cheaper, mass-produced goods flowing from countries like China made sustained domestic operation unsustainable, as confirmed by former industry executives. Following the closure of their long-standing supplier, Hasbro was compelled to import Monopoly tokens from China. When they subsequently explored bringing metal token production back to the U.S., they did find some domestic metal stamping firms. However, these firms required significant retooling and adaptation to meet the mass-market, high-volume, low-cost output necessary for a game like Monopoly. The challenge wasn't just finding a factory, but finding one calibrated for efficiency at an industrial scale. The economic reality remained a formidable barrier, as analysts frequently point out. Even with potential domestic partners, the cost difference for metal tokens remained prohibitive. Industry assessments indicated that producing these components in the U.S. would result in costs 30% to 50% higher than those from China. This wasn't merely a matter of cheaper labor abroad, it reflected the entire ecosystem, from raw material sourcing and specialized machinery to energy costs and regulatory compliance, that had evolved to support low-cost manufacturing overseas. This significant cost gap highlights the economic disincentives for reshoring, even for a company committed to the idea. Interestingly, not all Monopoly components faced this fate. The game boards, cards, and money for Monopoly are still primarily produced in the US, specifically in Massachusetts. This anomaly underscores critical factors in manufacturing location decisions. Paper is heavy and bulky, making overseas shipping costs a significant deterrent. Furthermore, the U.S. paper industry remains robust and highly automated, benefiting from domestic raw materials and established infrastructure. This demonstrates that where a domestic industrial base is strong and logistics are challenging, reshoring remains viable. The monopoly example illustrates a broader phenomenon, the erosion of the manufacturing ecosystem. It's not just about individual factories closing, it's the disappearance of an entire supporting web. This includes the manufacturers of specialized machinery, the tooling providers, the raw material suppliers, and even the logistics networks tailored for specific industries. When production moves overseas, this complex, interconnected system doesn't just relocate, it often dissipates, leaving behind a void that is extraordinarily difficult to fill, as documented by economic historians. Once a factory closes, the ripple effect on surrounding support industries can be devastating. Small businesses that supplied parts, offered maintenance, or provided specialized services lose their primary customer and often follow suit. This deindustrialization effect hollows out entire communities, as seen in many Rust Belt regions. The loss creates a vacuum where not only tangible assets like machines disappear, but also the intangible network of relationships and tacit knowledge that enables efficient manufacturing. This ecosystem cannot be easily recreated on demand. Perhaps the most critical and often overlooked casualty of this decline is specialized labor. Skills in areas like precision machining, tool and die making, industrial engineering, and materials science are not abstract concepts, they are acquired through years of apprenticeships, on-the-job training, and continuous practice. When factories close and opportunities vanish, these skills are not passed down. Within a single generation, the knowledge base can evaporate, making it nearly impossible to restart complex manufacturing processes without an entirely new, costly, and time-consuming training initiative. Beyond explicit skills, there's also the loss of tacit knowledge, the unwritten rules, the problem-solving intuition, the feel for the machinery that only comes from decades of experience. This institutional memory, shared among workers and across departments, is crucial for optimizing production, troubleshooting complex issues, and innovating. When an industry leaves, this collective wisdom is scattered, making new entrants struggle to achieve the same levels of efficiency and quality. This loss of know-how is incredibly difficult to quantify, yet profoundly impactful, say experts in organizational learning. Rebuilding domestic manufacturing also faces the challenge of scale. High-volume, low-cost manufacturing, like that needed for board game components or everyday consumer goods, demands a unique blend of efficiency, automation, and integrated supply chains. This isn't about boutique, custom production, it's about making millions of identical items cheaply. Many existing U.S. manufacturers have shifted towards low-volume, high-value, specialized production. To revert to mass-market manufacturing requires not just new factories, but a complete rethinking of production strategies and significant capital investment for automation and scale, as reported by industry associations. The capital investment required to rebuild a comprehensive manufacturing base is staggering. It involves billions, if not trillions, of dollars for new factories, advanced machinery, infrastructure upgrades, and research and development. This level of investment is not something private companies can undertake alone, especially when faced with significantly higher operating costs compared to established overseas competitors. Government incentives and long-term strategic planning become essential, yet even then, the scale of the challenge remains immense, as economic policy papers frequently emphasize. Beyond costs and skills, the regulatory environment in developed nations like the U.S. presents another significant hurdle. Environmental regulations, labor laws, and safety standards, while crucial for public welfare, add layers of complexity and cost to manufacturing operations. Developing nations often have more lenient regulations, allowing for cheaper, faster production. While not advocating for deregulation, analysts note that these differences create a competitive disadvantage for domestic producers trying to match foreign prices, especially for goods with thin margins, like many game components. The cumulative effect of these factors creates a persistent cost disparity that is difficult to overcome. A comparison between domestic and overseas production for many categories of goods often reveals a significant gap. For example, while the U.S. boasts high productivity in highly automated sectors like paper, manual or semi-manual processes often see costs upwards of 30 to 50% higher domestically. This is a systemic issue, not simply an isolated market fluctuation. Reversing this trend would necessitate fundamental shifts in policy and economic structure, according to trade economists. Experts agree that rebuilding lost manufacturing ecosystems is not a quick fix. It's a process that spans decades, not years. Developing a new generation of skilled workers, investing in cutting-edge machinery, attracting a web of suppliers, and fostering innovation takes sustained commitment and strategic planning. The challenges are so profound that some argue certain capabilities, once fully offshore, may never truly return to their former domestic strength, underscoring the irreversible nature of some industrial decline decisions. The damage from decades of outsourcing cannot be undone overnight. The story of monopolies' components serves as a microcosm for a much larger narrative. It reveals the often invisible ecosystem that underpins all manufacturing: the specialized tools, the interlinked suppliers, the experienced hands, and the institutional knowledge. This intricate web, once taken for granted, quietly sustained generations of industrial output. Its value was not fully appreciated until it was gone, leaving behind a stark realization that efficiency gains from outsourcing came with the unforeseen cost of systemic decay. This decay makes true reshoring profoundly challenging. The experience of companies like Hasbro highlights a sobering conclusion: some things, once lost, cannot simply be bought again. The specialized machines are gone, the factories are shuttered, and the skills have disappeared with a generation of workers. Rebuilding requires not just capital, but time, talent, and a complete re-establishment of an industrial culture. While efforts to reshore continue, the path is arduous, demonstrating that the decision to send manufacturing abroad decades ago had consequences far deeper and more enduring than initially understood, fundamentally altering national economic capabilities.